Turn and face the strange changes.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle.
Innovation. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And G.I.Joe certainly has had a lot of innovation over the years.
So today we're ranking some of them.
The 5 best and worst innovations in the G.I.Joe toy line. 5th best, color-changing Zartan. Zartan was already a pretty unique character, and the toy line made him even more unique by having the figure change colors in the sun. It was a neat feature, with the only drawback being that the torso is fused together, making repairs more difficult. Oh, and his siblings had the same gimmick. 5th worst, Sergeant Savage and G.I. Joe Extreme. With the original G.I. Joe line ending in 1994, innovation reared its ugly head.
What was next for the brand?
Well, first we had a totally not Captain America guy in stasis since World War II, and then the steroid-fueled G.I. Joe Extreme. My main problem is that they changed the scale of the figures, making them totally incompatible with what came before. I don't think these toy lines were ever gonna be a great success, and considering the original line ran for 12 years, with these only lasting 1 or maybe 2...
History seems to agree with me.
4th best, vacuum metallizing. This entry was mostly gonna be about Destro, since I actually blanked on the whole Sky Patrol thing.
I guess Destro makes it memorable for me.
Seeing that shiny chrome noggin in the toy aisles next to all the regular figures sure left an impression. Though undoubtedly seeing the Sky Patrol vehicles blew some minds too. There was also Super Trooper, who was pretty popular considering how damn many of him I've come across secondhand over the years.
Anyway, shiny things were cool.
4th worst, slightly taller figures. Okay, so Sergeant Savage and Extreme were different toy lines and a different concept. But the modern body construction figures are supposed to be a direct continuation of the original line. They sure banked on nostalgia with the packaging and the way the figures looked. So why the hell are they all a 1/4 inch taller than the originals? It's really distracting when you put them on a shelf with the OGs.
They just don't look right.
I bet this is even worse for people who have OCD things like going on in their life. Also, for some reason, maybe because the feet are smaller, the peg holes are smaller, making new figures incompatible with old vehicles and vice versa. 3rd best, the ball-jointed head. The first few years of G.I. Joe were already great, but they upped the quality in 1985 when they switched from a swivel joint at the neck to a ball joint, thus improving articulation a great deal. Yeah, not much more to say here, those joints be ballin'.
And now for the complete opposite of that.
3rd worst, taking away articulation. In 2002, some figures ditched the O-ring construction, leading to less articulation. No swiveling waist and limited leg movement at the hips.
We can safely assume this was done to save money.
G.I. Joe fans were not happy with this change, to the point where Hasbro relented and re-released a bunch of them with O-rings. They pulled this crap again with some vehicle drivers from the movie tie-in toys.
I don't mind losing articulation if there's a good reason for it.
Like with the original Deep Six, who was wearing a heavy, cumbersome deep diving suit, and who had the gimmick of floating or sinking in water with that pump thing. Hell, that almost made the good innovation list. 2nd best, the Swivel Arm Battle Grip. 1982 saw the launch of G.I. Joe, a real American hero. It was great, but not without flaws. The biggest being the joint at the elbow could only move up and down, making holding larger weapons look pretty silly. Enter 1983 and the Swivel Arm Battle Grip to allow far more posability with weapons. It was an even bigger deal than the neck ball joint, and that's why it's higher on the list. 2nd worst, color changing that isn't Zartan related.
Yeah, this is about the eco-warriors.
And look, I don't even mind the splash water to make damage appear gimmick. It's fun for kids, and G.I. Joe was for kids. No, my main problem is that the color changing can become permanent after long use, meaning the figures end up looking ugly and battle damaged. Granted, most eco-warriors didn't look great to begin with, but still.
And the best G.I. Joe innovation is...
The very first one, shrinking down to 3 3/4 inches. Now, Hasbro didn't invent this, and Kenner made it popular years before with their Star Wars toys.
But there's nothing wrong with stealing a great idea.
Relaunching G.I. Joe from being a 12-inch figure to a group of roughly 4-inch figures was brilliant. It allowed lots of figures to be made and sold cheaply so every kid could get some, and allowed for a mind-blowing amount of vehicles, everything from a motorcycle to a freaking aircraft carrier. It's the smartest concept Hasbro ever stole.
And the worst G.I. Joe innovation is...
Built to rule. G.I. Joe toys are cool. Lego is cool. Even Lego G.I. Joe figures, or the non-Lego legal equivalent, are cool.
But why the hell would you combine the two like this?
The figures had out-of-place Lego pegs on them, and the vehicles looked ugly as hell. This was a huge mistake. Once again, history seems to agree with me, as there's barely any stuff selling online, and the little that does sells very cheaply, especially compared to regular G.I. Joe products of the time. It's amazing this line lasted 3 years, from 2003 to 2005.
And that was the list.
Note that I called these G.I. Joe innovations, not Hasbro innovations, since most of them were ideas others had before that Hasbro then used for G.I. Joe. I mean, they might have invented the swivel arm battle grip, I don't know, feel free to correct me, but the majority of stuff here is copied from other companies.
Anyway, do share your favorite or most hated innovations of G.I. Joe in the comments below. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody, and hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing.
Change it. Turn and face the strain. Change